All right, so today we are going to go over chapter 5 and 6. Okay, relatively short chapters. I have real quick. I have updated chapter 1 quiz, so I'm slowly making my way through the final exam. And what I'm going to do is on the chapter quizzes, you're going to see quizzes that will say graded and quizzes that will say optional. Okay. The optional quizzes are the old quizzes. So they're just other questions. If you want to take them, you're more than welcome to. They do not affect your grade at all. So if you just want to take them and see what you would get and just learn the information, that's totally fine. I just figured since they were already there, it was easy to go ahead and just keep them there, just keep them as optional. And then I'm going to create brand new quizzes. That way I make sure I'm importing all the correct questions. Just be on the lookout for those as I publish them. Every time I publish a quiz, I'm gonna give you 2 weeks from the date that I publish it to work on, to get those quizzes turned in, okay? Ideally, I would love to have them like a week after we do the chapter, so the information is fresh in your mind, but I'm just a little bit behind in posting those. So I'll always give you at least 2 weeks to finish those quizzes. All right, chapter 5, we're gonna focus on the tactical in the short term. And a lot of it has to do with our rate management. Okay. So variety of rates. How many of you through that Kahoot quiz learned about a different rate, different type of rate that you didn't know that we had, that hotels have in general? Jason, what's one?
I didn't know the term hurdle rate for today.
Okay, so the hurdle rate or best available rate. Okay, excellent. And remember the bar, the best available rate is the rate that we kind of basically the lowest rate that we are authorized to offer. Of course, the rack rate's the highest. The best available rate, think about the best available rate's the rate that is posted on our website. Okay. So that best available rate is what we're quoting to guests when they call or they walk in and want a reservation. Okay. Everything else is a discount off of that bar. Okay, what else?
Where was it? The government rate? I didn't know about that one.
Okay, yeah. So government rate, again, is based on the per diem. Let's take a look and see. All right, so what state are we going to? Florida. Oops. So in Florida, we look the standard rate, any location that does not have a specified rate, standard rate for the government rate is 110 in the state of Florida. It doesn't have anything just identified beyond that. Okay. But then you look at places like Fort Lauderdale, 172, October, November, December. What happens in January, February, March, and April?
It rises.
The per diem goes up. Tourism usually kicks up. Fort Lauderdale's right there on the coast, so tourism probably picks up. So these are rates that are negotiated with the government. For the first time in a long time, San Antonio's per diem rate, the government rate, has actually increased for the first time in many years this year. So if you take a look right here, Key West, they have some pretty high government rates, especially during spring break, 436. Okay. So a lot of it has to do with the cost of living in the area. A lot of it has to do with the type of travel that goes to that area. So let's take a look at, let's do a new search for San Antonio. So San Antonio, for most of the year, 137. And then it goes up to 161 and then back down to 137. So during February, which is rodeo month, and then we have spring break. Okay. I don't know if that's the reason why it goes up during those months, but it just kind of gives you an idea that it can fluctuate based on the months. In the city of San Antonio, the count in Bexar County, this is the per diem for meals. So we also we don't as hotels don't have to take that into consideration, but when you're traveling, per diem does go up or does affect your what you're allowed to spend on meals. So just per diems are really is an interesting concept to think about when it comes to the government rate. And again, we don't have any control over that.
Mr. Minsky,
Yes.
are you allowed to turn down the government if you have the rooms
Yeah.
available?
If you don't want to, if you want to turn off the government rate, you don't want to accept the government rate because it's too low, absolutely. You don't have to accept it. Yeah. And that's part of the revenue manager's job is to looking at what rates, what categories of rates are we maybe going to close out for certain times of periods. Okay. When I was at the La Quinta, did I tell you about Fiesta at the La Quinta? Okay, I won't tell the story again. What other rates during the Kahoot did you find either interesting or surprising that you didn't know that hotels offered?
Didn't that hurt the hotel though, for like the government? So then wouldn't the government not wanna work with them anymore?
I mean, it depends. It really depends. And I don't think if you turn away a group one time, that the government's just gonna write you off as we're not gonna work with you ever again. The issue is if you turn a group away, if they go somewhere else, they may provide exceptional service, and then that government rate might turn into something that they go to on a regular basis. There are a lot of hotels in San Antonio, since San Antonio is Military City, USA. There's a lot of hotels that have regular government business. So whether it's like they have a group in-house for training for a week once a month, or they have rotating groups throughout the month. So sometimes, even though we offer it at a lower rate, think about the activity we did on that first day of class. Okay, if it means that I can sell that room and get it sold and have my occupancy up, well, then that might be beneficial because it'll help get me through those times where I don't have a lot of occupancy. If it's a group that can get me through those time periods. Yes.
So would that government rate also be considered as for casual or?
It depends. I mean, I'm technically an employee of the state of Texas because this is a public institution. But I believe technically you're supposed to be traveling for work purposes to qualify for the government rate, not on leisure travel.
Because the reason why I ask is because, we're veterans. So a
We get
lot of
the
times when we go
government
to
rate.
these websites like Hilton.
Right.
Marriott, we go under the government rate and it gives us like a certain amount.
Right. So
would it
I
be-
think and correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. So going with the government rate is different than an organization offering a military discount. Okay, so if you have a military ID and they offer a military discount, that is different from the government rate. That's going to be a discount that they're offering, whether it's a percentage off or a dollar off their dollar amount off their bar rate. But it's not the same thing as a government rate. Government is for people who are government employees. So I understand. Try not to misspeak. When you are enlisted, you're a government employee. But when you retire or you get out of the service, you may still have access to military benefits, but not necessarily the government rate, is my understanding.
We get the government weight being a veteran because when you sign up, you show your military ID and they automatically give you the government rate.
Well, it depends on the property. I would not expect that at every single property. Because on your ID, does it show retired or, okay, so some people may say that the government rate is only available for active duty. Yes,
So military discount, that's more of a promotional rate.
yep,
Government rate is more of like a, I'm traveling for business, so that's where the non-negotiable rate comes in. For government rate, you're only gonna pay a certain amount, where promotional, the military rate will be different for the weekends or the holidays, or whatever, or they just don't have rooms at that promotional rate, cause I've run
Exactly.
into that too, like I've asked if they have military rooms and they'll say they're out because they only will give so many rooms at that rate. So unless you're traveling like officially, I think they're two different things.
yeah, exactly. Okay, yes,
So is it possible to stack like your veteran rate and then your government rate?
No.
Or-
so you would, if oftentimes, that's a really good question. Somebody walks in, okay, and they say, I'd like, what's the rate for the room tonight? And we say $200. They're just like, ooh, that's way too much, right? Rather than we talked about last class about having the regret and the denial. Denial is, like Antonia said, we're out of that room type. We're all sold out. That's a denial, okay? We've denied a reservation. The regret is when the customer, the guest decides not to stay with us. So if I say our rate is 200 and they're like, ooh, that's too high for me, rather than let that person walk out the door, what kind of questions might you ask them?
If they're a AAA member.
Are you a
or-
AAA member? Are you a veteran? Or are you, do you qualify for a military discount?
Rewards member.
Typically, we wouldn't say what discounts do you qualify for, because then they're gonna ask you, oh, what discounts do you have?
Mhm.
Right? And that takes a lot of time to go through those. So if you just ask, typically the people who are AAA members or people who qualify for a promotional rate, things like that, they're gonna know to ask those questions. Okay. We also might, for promotional rates, we might also offer it to people who are rewards program members with us. So if somebody walks in, are you a Hilton Honors member? Like, no, I'm not. Okay. Well, if you sign up for Hilton Honors, we typically offer $5 to $10 off the rate as a Hilton Honors member. So if you want to go sign up and then come right back, we can get you that discounted promotional rate. Okay. So then you've got somebody signing up for your program, and you've also got given them a little bit of a discount on the room. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns, any other rates up here?
How does the employee rate work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Those of you who are in hotels, which hotel are you at? Courtyard by Marriott. How does your associate rate work?
You basically just go into the app and you put a special like code we have in the government, or in the corporate side, and it'll show us the rate, the corporate rate. Well, not
The associate rate?
associate rate.
Okay, and then when you show up at the hotel, do you have to provide anything? What do you have to provide to show verification?
So we have to print out like this paper that just says like our name and what hotel we work at, our manager, and then they're supposed to like, we have an app, not app, a website, we have to validate that code.
Okay. Excellent.
That's like.
Very cool. Emilio.
So it's the paper you provide by Marriott is a 30% discount for employers, any property by the name of Marriott. You just need to either check in, provide the paper, they be signed by your GM property, your ID number employer, and your manager need to approve it 1 month before the reservation book.
Okay,
For Hilton has different type of rates for employers. A lot of the hotels for Hilton, they have sometimes cancellation reservations when they're sold out. So people, they like to sell that room, so you can go to the website and then using your Hilton ID, you can tell them the hotel, hey, I see somebody cancel your reservation for $500. I give you $100 or $200 for that reservation, and we provide you the same room somebody canceled already, and you get a room with a better discount and with the hotel is still winning money for 1 or 2 nights. Depends.
yeah, and the Hilton, so in addition to the associate rate, there's also oftentimes the friends and family rate. And so somebody's added me to their friends and family rate for Hilton. So it's just a specific website that I go to. But they have also used my Hilton Honors ID to, like, they've signed it up under their name. And so when I go to that website, it validates and recognizes that I'm still under that person's Hilton friends and family. And so it's not as great of a discount as an associate rate, but it is oftentimes a discounted off the bar rate. So it kind of depends on the situation. The interesting thing, and I guess I'm assuming Oscar, with the website that you go to validate, it is fairly instant. Because, for example, when U of H was here, I guess because they worked for the Hilton Conrad School of Hospitality, they all were, I guess, Hilton members or Hilton employees. And so one of the people on the staff there added me to hers. But as soon as that campus closed and she left, then like instantly I had no more access to the website for friends and family. So that's how that associate rate works. And then they do have to verify. Now it is important to note, excuse me, because I had this experience last summer actually, when I was traveling on on this person's friends and family rate. Okay, I was in College Station, and I got a relatively good deal, like $100 a night at a Hilton hotel, College Station. Okay, the hotel itself was going through renovation, and bless you, it's going through renovation. So some floors had been renovated, some floors had not. And so when I checked in, I was told I was on a renovated floor. And when I walked in, it wasn't renovated, right? And so Hilton does a really good job of putting text messages, bless you. As soon as you check in, hey, how's everything with your stay? And so I just made a note, and I specifically said this is not a complaint, it's just an observation. Because if you make complaints while you're on an associate rate, that can impact you, not only your ability to stay on that rate, but also it reflects poorly on the person the associate that your rate is under. So if you are causing issues at the hotel, if you damage any property, not only does that affect your ability to continue using that rate, but it also affects the person, and they could potentially lose their job if the infraction is serious enough. So for those of you who are associates, it's really important that you know the people that you're giving that code to, or access to. Because I remember, I don't know if this is still the same way, but remind me if for Marriott people, this is the same way. But back in 2018, I went to France, and I was staying one night extra with my choir left, and then I stayed one extra night. And my friend Tamara gave me her Marriott friends and family. And it was just a piece of paper, and it was valid for 3 months, I think. Yeah, 3 months. And so I just had to have the piece of paper. And so for 3 months, I could go to any Marriott hotel, present that when I checked in, and I would get that rate if I used that corporate code to make my reservation. So think about that. If you give someone that piece of paper, it's valid for 3 months. So you better hopefully know, what's that?
2 months.
2 months now? Okay. Well, still 2 months is a long time for people to go and, so you better know who you're giving that that person access to that, because it could also reflect poorly on you as an associate. Okay, anything else? Let's talk about complimentary rates. Okay, free rates. Why would we give away a free room? I know you guys know. I wanted somebody else to answer. Why would we give away a free room? Why, Mark? Okay, yeah, so they may be using points, and that's gonna be a complimentary room. Okay, absolutely. So for being a rewards member, Jesse?
Or I guess to tell people to go to the hotel or something like that, like.
So we might give somebody a free rate, a free room if they're, and I hate to use this word, influencer. Okay, so still don't understand how that's a career, but whatever. Maybe I'm just a little jealous. But yeah, so someone is promoting our hotel. Now, it's really interesting that when I was in grad school at North Texas, I did a whole class about promotion and marketing, and one of the like 2-week segments was all about using influencers. So if an influencer goes and if you provide something free product, you have to tell, or that influencer is supposed to tell that they are getting that product for free. That they're getting some kind of special treatment, and they're not paying for that product. Whether that happens or not, I think the whole Fire Island Fire Festival was part of that. If you're not familiar with the Fire Festival, watch that documentary. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, so potentially an influencer. What else?
Make up for to make up for something.
Yeah, so guest service recovery. Okay, that's basically guest service recovery is our fancy way of saying we made a mistake. Okay, so if we made a mistake on something, we might give away a complimentary room. Now that's pretty drastic. Okay, depends on what the issue is. If we also want to make sure that we are empowered, our front desk associates are empowered to know what they can give away for free. So before they go straight to the room, give away the room, what else can they give them? A complimentary breakfast, right? That's not going to cost us as much as giving away a room night revenue. Okay, so sometimes those types of things might fix the issue. But complimentary room, there's one more reason why we might give away complimentary room. Okay, so yes, rewards, we mentioned that. What's up?
If we have to walk somebody,
Okay, yes, if we do have to walk somebody to a different hotel, we would definitely be comping that night.
I guess like say influencers, but they're people that are like who are like on top but work for the company. Sometimes would normally just give them like
So VIP guests, okay, if there's any potential VIP guests, maybe it's a group a corporate group that we work with a lot. They do a lot of business with us throughout the year. So maybe we might give them a complimentary rate. Okay. It goes a little bit along lines of group rates. And I'm also gonna say corporate as well. Okay. So let's say I'm trying to get somebody's corporate business. Or let's say I'm trying to get a group. They're gonna come in and they're gonna spend 4 days with me, and they're gonna spend $2 million in my hotel on food and beverage, on AV, on room rentals, on room rate. Do you think I could give them a couple of free nights if they're gonna come in and spend $2 million at my hotel? Yeah, right. So sometimes we do site visits. And those site visits is when the meeting planner comes in and we show them the spaces. They get to stay in the room, get to experience what it's like for their guests, their conference attendees. Okay. So that's when we might give free visits. All right. So our rack rate is, again, that is the highest rate that we want to achieve. The rack rate is the highest rate that we are basically allowed to charge. Does anybody know why it's called the rack rate? Yeah.
Is that referring to like the old time when it was on the rack and they had to go and find the
Yeah,
sheets and stuff?
literally, this is before my time, so I only heard stories. But there was a rack on the front desk, And you would go over to the rack and you'd pick the slip out of the room, and that was the rate that you paid. That was the rack rate.
What, like drawing straws or just like, this is the room that you're getting?
No, like they would have the room numbers and you would go and pick up the little, kind of think of like the flyer display board that you see like in a lot of hotels that have all the flyers for the activities around. Just one piece of paper in each slot, and this was this room, this is the rate, and that's the rate you paid. The rate achievement factor, okay? Basically, the rate achievement factor gives us how well did we get, how close did we get to that rack rate? Okay, based on all the discounts that we've provided, our average daily rate, what was that compared to our rate, our rack rate? Okay, so rate achievement is, did we achieve our rack rate or did we not? Okay, if we achieved our rack rate, what would be our rate achievement factor? 100%. Okay, so typically your rate achievement factor is going to be less than 100%. Okay, so basically we take the rate achievement factor is the ADR, our average daily rate, divided by whatever our rack rate was. Okay, so if our rack rate is $800 and our ADR is $400, what is our rate achievement factor?
50%.
50%, so 0.5. And then this times 100 moves that decimal place over, and we add the percent sign, 50%. Okay? ADR divided by our rack rate. Rate achievement factor. Any questions about that? It's a pretty simple formula. It's a percentage. What is the universal formula for percentage? Part over the whole. You've had me for cost control. We talk about this in week 1. Part over the whole. So the whole is our rack rate. The part is the ADR of how close did we get to that rack rate, okay? So the next thing we're going to talk about is dynamic pricing. What does the word dynamic mean? It means it changes, right? So hotels often use dynamic pricing when we price out our hotel rooms, okay? Because remember, the rate of our hotel is based on the concept of supply and demand. We talked about last class, constraint and unconstrained demand. So unconstrained, what is unconstrained demand? What does that mean? Yeah, there's not a lot of demand and we have a lot of supply, okay? If we have a constraint demand, the opposite is true. We have a high demand, we have a low supply available, okay? So as you can see, if we look at the static pricing, I have 250 rooms. If I charge $130 for all 250 rooms, my total revenue is $32,500. Okay? But if I use dynamic pricing, where my first 25 rooms, I'm going to offer them at a discounted rate of $110. And then the next 25 rooms, so number 26 through 50, I'm going to offer at $120. And then 51 to 150, I'm going to offer at $300. Okay, am I all right on my rooms? Yes, okay. And then 151 until 225, those 75 rooms at 140. And then finally, the last 25 rooms, I have that dynamic pricing of 150. So that results in $500 different per day. For an annual difference of $182,000. Okay. So this dynamic pricing allows us to fluctuate our rate based on. So that's why when Antonia mentioned earlier with the military discount rate, sometimes we close rates out. Now, you ever heard of the phrase no blackout dates? Okay, no blackout dates means that rate is never gonna be, that discount's never gonna be closed out. You can use that whenever you want to, okay? And that's built into the negotiation of the contract when you assign that, when you develop that promotional rate or that contracted corporate rate, okay? It may be in the corporate agreement that when we hit 75% occupancy, the hotel has the option to not offer that rate anymore, to close out that discount. So when you get to a certain point of constrained demand, we're at a high occupancy, there's a low supply, there's a lot of people looking for that low supply. We don't want to offer those discounted rates because we want to give the right guest the right price on the right day, the right room. Okay? Questions about chapter 5 and the rates and how we offer them? Oh, okay, what time is it? 11:36. Let's take about 5 minutes. Start with chapter 6.